What's going on, you guys? So a couple days ago, Paradox released another development diary for Imperator, and I kind of want to dive into it because it looks like they're making more changes, and this is going to be coming up for the Pompeii update, which I believe is coming out in the summer. So I know there's been a lot of controversy about this game. I've mentioned me and the historical gamer, as well as Tortuga, has been talking about it in our recent single malt strategy podcast. If you haven't listened to it, I would encourage you guys to do that. It's a really great episode where we really dive right into the game. And so let's just dive right into this. I'm really interested in the changes that they're going to be making to this game. We have done some changes to trade, but that may not seem that impactful to you at a glance, but gives us more tools in making the game deeper and more flavorful. We remove the sources of easy extra trade routes in all provinces, as it was too powerful and was no brainer to always go for those. They also made for a huge snowball of trade. We also made trade entirely handled as a province activity and not a city activity. While each city provides some commerce from its citizen, incoming from commerce is handled at a province level, so you can see the income from a trade route at the one place it happens. So that's really cool because having all those cities and it was a lot of trade. I did notice that. We removed the hard-coded benefits of a trade that were going to be exported. Instead, we have two unique modifiers: increases the value of your foreign imports and your foreign exports. The economy policy for commerce is now used for whether you want to strengthen your benefits from exports or your benefits from imports. All right, so that's good. Improving your provinces. One problem we identified was the lack of options at times when playing tall, and that you have too much resources that you have no use for when you're not busy conquering. Now we have added 4 province level abilities. They each cost 400 power of its given type and starts a process that 2 years later will give you a permanent bonus to that province. These can be repeated as much as you like, but you can have one process going in the province at a time. So these are the 4 ones. You got install province procurators, military power for 2% population output, and 0.01 monthly province loyalty. Promote infrastructure spending, civic power for +1 building slot. Entice business investments, oratory power for +1 import routes, and make religious endowments, religious power for +3% state religion happiness in a province. All right. There are also other ways to do these state investments other than spending a lot of power. There are events and decisions like country reform that will give you an amount of free state investments, which is then used instead of the power cost. Also, there are 3 different abilities you can do in each province. You can move the capital. That's really cool. First of all, you can move your capital to that city for a large cost of civic power cost, where it becomes cheaper to move to a bigger city and more expensive to move to a smaller city. Interesting. Relocate provincial capital. You can change which city is the provincial capital of a province for 50 civic power. Province capital will be set at the start of the game, only change otherwise if conquered by another nation. Coordinate urban development. Pay 100 civic power to start a process that at the end of 2 years you will get +1 local civilization in that city until the end of the game. This can be repeated as much as you want, but you can't do it more than once in a city at the same time. Interesting. All right, so got here, coordinate urban development. Rome pays 100. Output will be reduced for 2 after. Gets urban advance until the end of the game, and you get these nice bonuses here. Okay, interesting. Buildings have changed with the population rework mentioned earlier and by the trade network mentioned today. Marketplaces plus 10% tax income from cities. You get 10% power from training camp, fortress +1 fort level, and granary +5 population capacity. I like that. Now some of these make you go, what the I would like to point out the granaries just don't give +5 pop capacity in most cases, as there are modifiers like grain giving +10% adjacent to major river, +50% warm climate, +90%, etc. Okay, that's cool. There's a barbarian rework happening. A lot of the things regarding barbarians work similar to how they did in the original EU Rome, and now it's just not good enough anymore. In Pompeii, you will now see the following changes to barbarians. Paid off barbarians will no longer loot your territory. Interesting. Barbarians that have not fought in a battle will never accept to surrender. Barbarians will no longer care about potential strength when you negotiate with them, only about the armies in the same general area. Barbarians are no longer clever enough to use zones of control propagation, even if they take a fort. Barbarians have no longer any attrition of known provinces. Barbarians reinforce twice as quick when not sieging. They also grow in size as they take over provinces containing tribesmen. Interesting. All right. And then you got zones of control changes. There have also been two major advantages to friendly zone of control in Pompeii. First of all, they now protect against all nasty things barbarians do on your territory. But most importantly, friendly zones of control will now protect against the attrition you get from bad climate. This makes it so that you don't lose half your army because you live in a desert, nor will you take a huge hit every single winter as a German tribesman. Okay, interesting. Slaves distribution, we did some changes to slave distribution in Pompeii, in that each time you take a city, the amount of possible cities getting slaves are far larger, not weighted down, not weighted towards 50% reaching your capital. Now we'll consider more provinces the bigger your nation is, and also in ports, and not just provincial capitals where cities, where the commander is holding, etc., to get a better spread. Heritage, one of the biggest complaints we had with the release was that the nations felt the same. That's I noticed in the podcast that was a big thing, especially the historical gamer pointed that out on how every country pretty much feels the same. While we had a wide variety of countries with different populations and governments, there needed to be a bit more of identity to them. Even if any state on Crete would have a great number of similarities with other city-states on the same island, there were also differences. This is why we are adding heritages to the Pompeii update. A heritage has two benefits and one drawback. So give a sort of identity to your country. There's a dozen different generic heritages that depends on your geographical location. For instance, you would get seafaring heritage if you start with a port, and desert heritage if your capital has a desert terrain. Okay, so this is the heritage system. Over 20 countries will have unique heritages in Pompeii, and then we will be adding more in future patches. Some of the powers that have glory days behind them, while others are for countries that would rise to become influential in the future. As an example, here are some of we have added for Egypt, Carthage, Syracuse, and Athens. So here we go. So this is for Ptolemaic Egypt. When Alexander died, Ptolemy made it certain that he would be granted the richest and most prosperous land that he had known during the military campaigns under his former liege. So that gives you nice bonuses. And you got Carthage here. Export value, that's going to come in really handy. Navy maintenance cost. Oh, I do like some of these things here. Ship damage taken, minus 5%. Oh, I like that. That's a nice ship pro right there. And Athenian heritage. Morale of armies, minus 5%. Monthly tyranny, minus 0.02. Interesting. While the heyday of the Athenian influence may be over, it remains one of the most prestigious cities in the Greek world, and is home to academia founded by Plato. While it has at times languished on the vile foreign tyrants such as Demetrius of, I'm not going to be able to pronounce it, the city still remains its tradition of democratic rule. All right, so overall, I'm really looking forward to this heritage system here, and I find it interesting that they saved that for last here. Save the best for last, right? I think that's going to be really, that's going to give a nice, I would say, depth to certain nations that you're playing around with, especially if you're playing with Carthage and Egypt. It kind of take away that vanilla of everybody being the same, so that's interesting. The other benefits I do like, especially a lot of the things with trade in terms of provinces versus cities, as well as these little cool things like you can move the capital. I like that. So as you can see, more and more stuff they're enhancing to the game, making it basically what they're responding to feedback in essence, and they're basically molding the game to what players have been criticizing about since the game came out. Overall, I can tell you personally, if you listen to the podcast, I really do enjoy this game. I literally been sinking hours and hours while I'm supposed to be doing other things into this game, and it's very, very addictive. I really do enjoy it, and these other things that they're adding here is just going to sweeten the pot. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this Pompeii update, and it's free, so that's a huge thing. And it looks like I can only just imagine they're going to keep putting out more updates and just, you know, enhancing the game more, adding more depth, and, you know, eventually there'll probably be a DLC, but I feel like they're going to tweak the game so the vanilla version without any DLC is going to be good enough on its own, and then the DLCs will just sweeten the pot. All right, guys, I hope you guys like this. I will catch you guys in the next one. See you then.